Top on the brief this morning is a decision by the Monetary Authority to raise interest rate by 150 basis points to 26.25% from 24.75%. This is the third consecutive increase by the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank to contain the consistent upward trend of inflation pegged at 33% for April. The governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Yemi Cardoso, who is the chairman of that committee, retained the cash reserve ratio at 45%, and the asymmetric corridors around the rate is kept at plus 100 and minus 300 basis, a decision taken after its 295th meeting between May the 20th to the 21st to review recent economic development.
The committee's decisions are as follows. 1. Raise the MPR by 150 basis points to 26.25% from 24.75%. 2. Retain the asymmetric corridor around the MPR to plus 100 to minus 300 basis points. 3. Retain the cash reserve ratio of deposit money banks at 45%. And 4. Retain the liquidity ratio at 30%.
Well, tightening interest rate there. Let's move on now. It's another heartbreaking development on the Plateau, especially for two villages of Zura, Kampani, and Bandalala in Wase local government area, who are still in mourning following the killing of about 40 persons by bandits. Some Wase residents who spoke to Channels Television on the phone said the attacks on the villages occurred when residents were returning from the day's work. The bandits, according to the resident, attacked the villages simultaneously, setting ablaze houses, leading to pandemonium where some of the residents were killed and some others sustaining injuries. Over 30 persons were reportedly killed in Kampani, Zurak, while another 10 were killed in Bandalala, with several others still missing, although those figures are under dispute. And out of the nation's capital, the Senate has adopted a resolution to coordinate a national summit involving stakeholders, farmers, including herders as well, to address the issue of grazing. Farmers' herders clash that would guide the Senate enact necessary legislation on the matter. This resolution was taken after a motion sponsored by Senator Issa Jibrin on the need to rehabilitate 4 communities of Omala local government area in Kogi State affected by attacks and killings by gunmen. Senator Jibrin further disclosed that attacks on these communities have resulted in the killing of over 600 citizens, in addition to wanton destruction of public and private property worth hundreds of millions of naira. In the meantime, lawmakers in the Green Chamber are raising concern or alarm over security and safety at the country's airports following allegations of employment of incompetent personnel. The issue was raised as a matter of urgent national importance by Honorable Jesse Onwa Kalusi, and the House is asking the Minister of Aviation to carry out a comprehensive audit of all airport personnel. It is also asking the Minister of Aviation to mandate the relevant authorities to exempt members of the armed forces from toll gate fees and parking payments in airports across Nigeria, among other issues of national security that were deliberated on at plenary.
Ministry of Aviation and relevant agency should conduct a comprehensive audit of airport personnel. The audit should include an assessment of qualified skills, qualification and adherence to professional standards, and the report should be presented to this House within 14 days.
Many airplane crashes, the bombs that were planted in there came from workers who come in there to do construction work or repair work. They are easily compromised outside. So I think this is very critical.
Moving on now, the nation may inevitably be bracing for a looming industrial action after organized labor has rejected 54,000 now proposed by the federal government as minimum wage following a return to the negotiation table by a tripartite committee on the new minimum wage due to reported walkout by the labor last week. At the reconvened meeting, the federal government made a fresh proposal to pay 54,000 as against the initial 48,000 naira it proposed during the last sitting. However, sources at the meeting, which held behind closed doors at the nation's capital, told Channels Television that the organized labor refused the new proposal, maintaining it's a far cry from the 615,000 naira proposed by organized labor. The meeting was subsequently adjourned to today, May the 22nd, for continuation of negotiations.
Well, you can see that it's still not substantial compared to what you need to keep a family moving. There are various ways of expressing your displeasure on issues. Last time, we told them there was no case submission. And in this matter again, we told them that there's nothing on the table, when they moved to 54. And the state governors were missing in action. So we may be convening tomorrow in the afternoon, giving the governors benefit of doubt. They will tidy up, come up and give justification to any figure they are mentioning. Because when you give a figure, you do justification to that figure and say, this is why we are doing this. And that is what Labour is still expecting from them. And I know that employers, Labour in the private sector, may equally be expecting that.
Well, let's see how that plays out later on in the day. And to that ever-intriguing Rivers politics, where 8 more commissioners have been sworn in to serve in the State Executive Council after they were screened and confirmed by the Victor Okojumbo-led House of Assembly following their nomination by the governor. Among those sworn in are former commissioners who served in Mr. Nyesom Wike's cabinet, including Dr. Peter Mende, who was the Commissioner for Energy, and Barrister Eloka Tassi Amadi, who served as Commissioner for Works. A former Commissioner for Commerce in the state, Mr. Charles Beke, was also screened and confirmed. Governor Fubara asked the newly sworn-in council members to serve with diligence and strengthen his administration's vision of upscaling the well-being of Rivers people, as well as keeping records as much as possible. Last week, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Dagogo Iboroma, was the first to be screened and confirmed by the Victor Okojumbo-led House, and later sworn in by the commissioner, sworn in by the governor following after those division in the House. And let's inform you that retired Nigerian police officers, I should say, under the contributory pension scheme converged on the premises of the National Assembly to protest over several months of unpaid pensions. The retired officers, who came from different states chapters bearing placards, lament the hardship being experienced by their members over the failure of the Pension Commission to pay them their entitlement. The personnel who are no longer in service are asking the federal government to even remove them from the contributory pension scheme. In business, the central bank governor, Mr. Yemi Cardoso, has said although the Apex Bank is excited at the strides of fintech companies operating in Nigeria, there is need to ensure proper regulation, hence the need to clamp down. Mr. Cardoso gave his position while responding to questions from journalists after the MPC meeting. Recall that the central bank recently issued a directive asking fintech companies to stop the onboarding of new customers due to rise in illicit financial flows and money laundering. Distribution of food on the foreign scene in Rafah by United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees has been suspended due to Israel's attack on the city and lack of supplies. According to Gaza's health ministry, 85 people have been killed and 200 injured in the last 24 hours. That's according to their report. The health ministry in Palestine also disclosed that about 7 people, including a teacher and a doctor, have been killed in an Israeli raid on Jenin in the occupied West Bank. Moving now to sports, it's goodbye to Stamford Bridge for Mauricio Pochettino, who has left Chelsea by mutual consent just 2 days after the end of the first season in charge of the Stamford Bridge club. Pochettino departs 1 year into a 2-year deal, and having finished 6th in the Premier League and winning their final 5 games of the season, his future was the subject of an internal end-of-season review with Chelsea sporting directors Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart. Pochettino had voiced his frustration at a number of issues at the club during its first season, while Chelsea also underperformed given their considerable investment in playing staff amid a lengthy injury list. So those are the stories we've been tracking, say, in the last 24 hours, and of course it's going to form or shape part of our conversation for the rest of the day.